Hi everyone, welcome to Mr. Wagon's math class again. We learned also last lesson solving equations using inverse operation. Two properties we talked about, the subtraction property of equality. If you have A equals B and then you subtract C from both sides, you get an equivalent equation, and those are called inverse operation. Addition, the inverse operation will be subtraction. To undo addition or to get rid of the addition, you use subtraction. The second property we already learned, addition property of equality. If A equals B, then adding C to both sides will give you an equal equation. So the inverse operation of subtraction, or to undo subtraction, you use addition. In today's lesson, we will be learning the inverse operation or solving inequality using inverse operations. So what is the difference between equations and inequality? In equation, an equal sign is used. In inequality, less than, more than, less than or equal, or more than or equal are used. So the first property we will talk about is the addition property of inequality. If A more than B, then adding C to both sides will give you an equivalent inequality. Equivalent inequality have the same solution. And that works for less than, more than, less than an equal, or more than an equal. For an example, for you to understand how this works, if you have -3 less than 2, then adding 4 to both sides will give you 1 less than 6, and that is a true statement. Here's two examples to practice for the addition property of inequality. Solve for the variable x minus 6 more than or equal to -10. Isolate x on one side. That means get rid of all the numbers on the same side as the x. Since we subtracted 6, to undo subtraction we use addition, which is the addition property of inequality. So add 6 to both sides gives you x more than or equal to 4. Since there's an equal sign, that means 4 is a solution. To graph this, go to 4, put a closed circle if you remember from last lesson, because 4 is a solution. Now I need all the possible solution set that's more than 4, so I'll go to the right. To make sure my answer is right, check one of those solutions. 5, for example, is more than or equal to 4. That's a true statement, so my direction going to the right is correct. Now the second problem. 1/4 more than y minus 1/4. Isolate y on one side of the equation. That means get rid of the 1/4. Since we subtract in 1/4, then use the addition property of inequality, add 1/4 to both sides. 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4. Simplify that, which gives you half, more than y only, because -1/4 plus 1/4 is 0. If you notice, half more than y, if you read it this way, it's y less than half, so you can write it as y less than half, if that makes more sense to you. Now to graph this, there isn't an equal sign, so half is not a solution. So I use an open circle because half is not a solution, and then I need y less than half, so I'll go to the left because all the numbers less than half to graph it. Now let's talk about the subtraction property of inequality. If A more than B, then subtracting C from both sides will keep the inequality true. So equivalent inequality have the same answer or solutions. That works for all less than, more than, less than an equal, or more than an equal. For you to understand how that works, -3 is less than or equal to 1. Subtract, for example, 5 from both sides. -3 minus 5 is -8, is less than or equal than -4. That is a true statement. -8 is less than -4. Now let's work with this example. 5/6 is less than or equal to z plus 1/6. I need to isolate z on one side of the equation. That means I need to get rid of 1/6. And since I'm adding, the inverse operation would be subtraction. So use the subtraction property of inequality. If I subtract the same number on both sides of the inequality, I'll get an equivalent inequality. So subtract 1/6, subtract 1/6. Now let's start with this side. 5/6 minus 1/6 is 4/6. Bring the less than and equal down, and 1 6 minus 1 6 is 0. That's gone. Simplify the 4 6, and that gives you 2/3 less than or equal to z. If that's hard to read it the other way. Z more than or equal to 2/3, and then write it again. So I need all numbers that are more than 2/3 or equal to 2/3. So for you to graph it, here's the graph. Find 2/3 on the graph. I need a closed circle because 2/3 is a solution. There is an equal sign. And then I need all the numbers that's more than 2/3. So I'll go to the right with this red arrow. If you're not sure, check to see one of those solution set, if it works or not. 1, is it more than 2/3? Yes, it is. So I know my direction is right. Now here's a word problem. Let's see if we can write and solve an inequality. You are riding a train. Your carry-on bag can weigh no more than 50 pounds. Your bag weighs 38 pounds. So you have a bag that has 38 pounds in it already. Your limit is 50 pounds, which means the maximum is 50 pounds. Write and solve an inequality that represents how much weight you can add to your bag. Now look for the clues. No more than means a maximum. And if I'm using no more than, that means I need less than or equal as an inequality. Now I need to make sure is 50 a solution. Yes, 50 is a solution because that's the maximum I can get to. So I can get up to 50, but no more than 50. So how do you write the equation? Think about your extra weight that you needed to add to the existing weight is no more than 50. Now this is color-coded for you to write the equation. Extra weight is W plus the existing weight is 38 less than or equal to 50. Now solve it. Use the subtraction property of inequality because you're getting rid of the 38 to isolate W. So W is less or equal to 12, which means the weight, and that's interpret the solution. That means explain what that 12 means. Up to 12 pounds can be added to the carry-on. So I can add 0 pound up to 12 pounds, but no more than that. Now for B, can you add both a 9-pound laptop and a 5-pound pairs of boots to your bag without going over the weight limit? Explain. Can you? No, because 5 plus 9 is 14, which exceeds the limit of 12 pound that can be added to get to 50 pound, because if you add 14, you went over the limit 2 pounds. That's it for today's lesson. You guys have a great day.